We must not be taken aback by the numbers, but rather view them as persons, seeing their faces and listening to their stories, trying to respond as best we can to their situation.
Pope Francis earlier today before a joint session of Congress advocating immigration reform. During that first ever papal address, the pontiff called on American citizens to embrace immigrants from Latin America and around the world, but his comments come in the middle of a heated debate about securing our borders and ensuring the integrity of citizenship. So how will his words influence the fight over immigration? For more, let's welcome in via Skype from Washington, D.C., the media director for the Federation of American Immigration Reform, or FAIR, Ira Mehlman. And also joining us, columnist for The Wanderer and writer for the conservativehispanic.net, Rey Flores. Gentlemen, thanks for your time here on Newsmax Prime. And Ira, we heard the Pope not distinguishing between immigration and illegal immigration. We heard the applause from Democrats and open borders advocates in the audience this morning. In your view, were those statements too politically provocative?
Well, look, I think we all respect the Pope and his compassion for poor people around the world. But one of the things we have to remember is that in a world of 7.5 billion people, we can't solve everybody's problems through migration. We also have to remember that the Pope tends to look at immigration exclusively from the perspective of immigrants. And obviously, immigration benefits immigrants. Nobody picks up and leaves one country and moves to another unless it's in their interest to do so. What the government's concern is, what is the impact on the American people? The Pope may view this as charity, but I don't know any doctrine that allows anybody to be charitable with other people's resources. What the Pope is asking is that we be charitable with other people's jobs, other people's children's educational opportunities. That's simply not feasible. The Pope, as the first Latin American Pope, ought to be putting his influence behind substantial economic and social reforms in the sending countries, particularly in Latin America, so that people don't feel the need to pick up and leave and go from one country to the other.
Well, let's get the perspective.
Ultimately, we're doomed to failure if we try to move everybody.
All right, understood, Ira. Let's turn to Rey. Rey Flores, your thoughts on what the Pope had to say. Do you agree with what he had to say today?
Well, I agree with what our other guest said. He's 100% correct. What I think the Pope really missed an opportunity to address more pressing issues for Catholics altogether by not mentioning abortion or traditional marriage at all. He really expounded, was very specific about the death penalty and about immigration, and mentioned Catholic social justice, Dorothy Day, and Martin Luther King several times in the speech. So it's sort of a feel-good social justice talk that he gave. And Catholic social teaching is important. But at the same time, there's a pressing issues, especially with last week's defund Planned Parenthood efforts, that the Pope missed a huge, huge opportunity with the world audience to address two of the most important things for Catholics and Christians, which is the value and the sanctity of human life.
And of course, the irony was, Rey, yesterday, Democrats in the Senate put the kibosh on efforts to deal with stemming public funding for abortion, which brings me back to Ira. We've heard the left say never let a crisis go to waste. Ira, by the same token, will the Pope's speech today embolden the president to take even more radical executive actions on amnesty and immigration?
But, I'm not sure this president needs any encouragement to take radical steps and to violate the constitutional limits of his office. He's demonstrated over the past 7 years that he's prepared to do that with or without the Pope's approval. Look, I think we can anticipate that the current administration is going to use its last 16 or 17 months in office to further eviscerate immigration restrictions here in the United States, quite likely to bring in large numbers of people from the Middle East without properly vetting backgrounds to ensure that they don't pose a threat to American society. I think the American public's mind is made up on this. They clearly understand that our current immigration policies are a threat to our security and to the economic security of a lot of Americans, I'm not sure that this is going to change anybody's mind, including President Obama's.
And we will have to leave it right there. Gentlemen, we thank you very much. Ira Mehlman and Rey Flores, both from Washington, D.C. Look forward to visiting with you both again in the not-too-distant future. Now, as the Pope continues his historic visit to the United States, a lot of Americans still ask, just who is Pope Francis? And as always, Newsmax has got you covered. You can learn more about Pope Francis and his humble rise to the Vatican in the book, Francis, A Pope for Our Time. And you can get this special offer right now by going to newsmax.com/Pope or by calling 1-800-203-7047. You can learn more about Pope Francis with this book, and again, you can get it by going to newsmax.com/Pope or calling 1-800-203-7047. We're coming back.